Liz Adiola is a digital journalist reporter at Channel 4 in Columbus, Ohio. Liz obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in broadcast journalism and a minor in political science from Arizona State University. The Illinois Associated Press named Liz Best News Writer. She was also selected as one of the top 20 under 40, making a difference in Central Illinois. So please welcome Liz. Also on our panel down at the end is Randy Ludlow. Randy Ludlow has been a journalist since 1972 when he first began writing for his hometown Indianapolis News at age 16. He spent 19 years at the Cincinnati Post, including a decade as its State House Bureau Chief in Columbus, and joined the Columbus Dispatch in 2002, specializing in investigative reporting and breaking news. He is now a state government watchdog reporter. For his crusade for government openness and a fight for public records that led to stories prompting the removal of resignation of 3 state cabinet directors, Ludlow was honored with the National 2010 First Amendment Award by the Associated Press Managing Editors Association. He has won dozens of other journalism awards, including Indiana's and Ohio's top investigative reporting prizes, and has been honored by the Society of Professional Journalists as the best reporter in Ohio. He has also received Ohio SPJ's Best Defense of the First Amendment Award, and he is a trustee of the Ohio Coalition for Open Government. So please welcome Randy Ludlow. That's a long one. And finally, we have Ken Stevens. For more than 30 years, Ken Stevens has been sipping that first cup of coffee with people from New England to Dixie. He's been a reporter and anchor at stations in Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and has served as anchor, executive producer, and news director for stations in Atlanta and Tampa, St. Petersburg. High points include anchoring his station's coverage of the 1988 Democratic National Convention in Atlanta and working at the very station that inspired the hit TV series WKPR in Cincinnati. Ken joined WTVN and Bob Connor's morning show in '97, a move that allowed his family to explore their Ohio-Kentucky roots. Ken has been honored by his peers with awards for writing and anchoring. So please join in welcoming Ken, Liz, and Randy.
Thank you.
And what we'll do, we've done in the past, so those of you that are new, we're just going to open it up for questions and answering for the 3 journalists that we have here.
Don't be shy.
Okay, do I have to start asking a question here? No one's asking. Don't be shy. Here, okay.
So there's been a lot of talk about social media today, and I learned a new term, direct media. So with all that said, it seems like with our haste sometimes to report this information, a lot of stuff gets reported incorrectly. And just like some comments on that, and how does the media now vet things when people are trying to rush to beat the other person out and that sort of stuff?
Well, in our case, we don't have any different standards for Twitter than we do for dispatch.com or the print paper. It has to be vetted. We don't put rumors out there. We don't put misinformation. We don't retweet unconfirmed reports from other people. We have to verify something before you see a tweet from us. So there's no difference. I mean, obviously, there's a greater scramble, particularly on breaking news, among the media to be the first with the tweet. But ultimately, I don't care. I don't think readers and viewers really care who's first. They just want solid, accurate information.
Yeah, I would agree with Randy. I don't know that, and maybe I think to a great degree, social media is responsible for this, but I think that element of being first has kind of gone away with programs like Twitter and all the other different ways we have of communicating these days. Same thing with TVN. I think we use that initial nugget of information we get perhaps from Twitter or Facebook or whatever. We use that maybe as a starting point, but we're still double checking facts and going through the same procedures we did before the advent of social media, before something hits the air.
I would also have to agree. I see it more as a tool of getting information out there quickly. If you're out on the field, like let's say pictures, for instance, I really see things like Twitter as an opportunity to maybe even engage with some of the viewers, some of the readers, to get more information about what's happening in the field, and then take that information and verify it and get it checked before we report it out on our own Twitter page or on our own website as well.
Next question, anybody? Making me work for this.
So I'm going to hide so that nobody knows where I'm from. But what you just said, Randy, about verifying and making sure that things are accurate before you put them out is in direct contrast to what some of us recently heard from our local paper, who flat out told us in a group where it was a meeting that several of us PIOs went just to sort of meet and greet and chit-chat. And they told us they did not care if it was right or wrong, that they wanted it to go out and they would correct it later. And many of us in the room sort of gasped, and we're a little bit in disbelief. And I'm just wondering, how does that make you feel being, in the industry that you're in when you hear something like that from another big paper?
Not good. That's an abomination. That's not to say, particularly on breaking news, that misinformation might not go out, but it's because that's what we were told by the fire chief, the police chief, people at the scene. You might have some misleading information there because they didn't truly know the situation. Then you come back and correct that. But to adopt a stance, you don't care whether it's true or not. You'll worry about cleaning it up later. It kind of flies in the face of journalistic standards.
Absolutely.
Yes. Where are you from?
Yes, please tell us.
Don't look at me like that, Ken. One thing I've noticed recently is comment sections in papers, radio, television, everything. And I find that in a lot of cases, comments are allowed to stay on a page that are blatantly wrong, and the publication or the broadcast medium knows that it's wrong, and we've run into situations like that. What do you feel your responsibility is? And I know you don't want to necessarily censor comments, but if something goes up that is blatantly wrong by a commenter that could lead other commenters to believe that same information, is there a way that you try to flag it or follow up or comment or correct?
Well, I know at the Dispatch, we consider that a public forum, and we're loath to censor it, outside of racism and hate language and things like this. Yeah, there's misstatements all the time, but we hope people differentiate between, individual comments and the news story above. There's also a legal aspect to this. If we start reviewing comments, deciding this one's good, that one's bad, we could be held legally responsible in a court of law because we allowed that defamatory or libelous language to show up on our website. But if we have a hands-off policy, that gives a media entity, or most anyone else, legal protection because we're not deciding what we're going to run and what we're not going to run. So therefore, there's legal protection too in not censoring comments.
You know what I would say too to that is I think it to a great extent it depends on how much the comment fires you up as a journalist. I know if for example if they're commenting just generally on the story, giving their opinion, we generally won't respond to it or offer a comment. If it's be it good or bad. If it's a direct attack on a story that one of our reporters did or on the station, and we can feel that we can set the record right by commenting on it, we will react to it. But we don't make a general policy to respond to all comments that are made on stories.
I was curious if you could comment on the effect of brand journalism and how much you guys are using that at your organization. I know some local papers and smaller TV stations, as an organization, you can basically send in a press release, and I've seen it published almost as is on a website. I know that's definitely true of local papers. I was curious with major organizations like yours, if you guys make heavy use of brand journalism.
I didn't quite catch the last part of the question there.
I was just curious how much use you make at your organizations of brand journalism, basically when organizations send in a release and you guys kind of just post it if it's written well as is.
Well, as all of you probably know, these have been difficult times for the media, particularly in print journalism and the evolution to a digital platform. But unfortunately, digital ads are not near worth as much money as a print ad. So they're still searching for a business model that'll work. But we still have Ohio's largest newsroom at the Dispatch. We don't cut and paste press releases. We check on things. We rewrite things. It's just not a matter of taking what somebody sent us and pitching it out there on the web. So thankfully, we're still in a position where we don't have to resort to that. Now, there are a lot of smaller dailies out there that do that, and I can see why they need to, because they simply don't have the personnel. I know of a county northeast of here, the county prosecutor writes up indictments every week, and he's a pretty good writer. And it runs in the newspaper without a word being changed, and that's not an ideal circumstance, but I can understand why they do it.
Anybody else on the panel have any, Liz or Ken, any other feedback with that question?
I might add that press releases for us, again, they're sort of a lead tool. We'll use them to germinate a story and then take it from there, and we may lift quotes directly from the press release, the media release. I guess sort of a sidebar to this, and it's kind of related to my particular business, is, and maybe this is a question I would throw out to everybody here, and when you're talking about press releases, it automatically comes to mind, you're talking about a piece of paper with writing on it. I wonder how much consideration is given to audio news releases, if there's any more given these days than there used to be to audio releases and video releases, because again, it's a situation by situation case that we take it on, but we won't. I guess a good example is if we get an audio pitch from Senator Sherrod Brown, and he's got a bite of audio that he wants to. He says, if you go to this website, you can download this and use it. Generally, with something with politicians or something that's opinionated, maybe something that's highly controversial, we avoid that like the plague. If it is another kind of audio news release, though, take for example, I know the Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic makes a lot of audio news releases available for different treatments they're pioneering, different medications available, different cases they're working on. They make doctors available on, maybe something now with Ebola, something with the measles, mumps, rubella outbreak, and that stuff, that kind of audio material is stuff we would use. Again, based on the content, we obviously would preview it and listen to it. But I'm just wondering how much you guys keep the radio people in mind, I guess, is the bottom line, is what I'm looking for. Huh?
So off of that, I have a question for you. When you're talking about audio press releases or video press releases, traditionally, and I come from a news broadcast TV background, and those were traditionally VNRs. And for years in newsrooms, we were not allowed to use VNRs. They were, taboo. You're not allowed to use them. You have to go get the video yourself, get the content yourself. And it's interesting that you say this because I had a conversation with someone from a Cleveland TV station just the other day who said to me that they appear to be more willing to accept things that are VNR-like, VNR-ish, than they have in the past. And so I'm just wondering, is that a trend that's now going the other way, where VNRs were unacceptable, now are sounds like you're willing to accept audio, sound bites, potentially video?
Well, the truth of the matter is, yeah, I think the answer is yes, and it's been, I guess, the result of us almost out of necessity by reductions in staff, not able to get somebody out to an event to talk to somebody in person. And if somebody has an airworthy comment on the state of the mumps outbreak in Ohio or in Franklin County or whatever, and it's just as good as if we went out there with a mic and talked with somebody, we would use it.
Yeah, I think that it's used sparingly, but we are using it. I have seen it used in different newsrooms. I've worked as a producer in several newsrooms for a couple of years, and we did use the VNR videos, but I've never seen us use just an entire report of it. We usually, sometimes we'll use the video, or if there's no way for us to get a sound bite in any other way, we might use a sound bite and then courtesy where we got that video and the sound from.
No, but that's a good reminder not to forget the photos, the video. I know just in recent weeks, for example, we had infrared video from the patrol marching T.J. Lane out of the woods following the escape. We had a horrific crash in Pickaway County last week, 3 people killed. On the web, at least, we used a sheriff's office photo showing just how devastating this wreck is. So there is value to us in things like that, both photo and video. I know dash cam video can be a little more problematic at times, particularly if there's a crime involved, because prosecutors want to potentially use that as evidence and want to make sure it's not released until that is cleared. But then again, there have been times when a prompt release of dash cam video has worked to the in the favor. I remember years ago at patrol, trooper was literally locked in a life or death struggle with a guy on a road in Fayette County, a guy who had a gun, and he's on top of him trying to beat the gun out. The guy fires a shot right by the trooper's head. Trooper sadly had to shoot and kill the individual, but that ultimately served to the benefit of patrol because it showed it was a good shooting, that the officer had no choice. So public records can both help your agencies, can help show what truly occurred. Don't hesitate to release things like video, audio, and pictures, all of which, by the way, are public record. It doesn't matter what format they're in. If you keep them, they're a public record.
I was wondering if agencies, when they put stuff out on social media, if there's ever a situation where you feel like they have put so much information out there that is old news, so if they try to pitch you the story, you feel like there's no reason for us to cover it because you've already put all the details out there. And on the flip side, if there's agencies have ever asked you to hold something like it's embargoed, but you feel like it's in the public's interest to know, so so you refuse to hold on to the details because you feel like this is something that should go on the web immediately, or have you ever encountered those situations?
I would say it depends. I love that you guys are putting a lot of your releases on social media and keeping that up to date. That's actually something that I check. I've added that to my list of beat checks in the morning when I come in before I go into the morning meeting to pitch story ideas. Is I go to a lot of the Facebook pages and Twitter accounts and I check to make sure that we're up to date on what's going on with that. It's just within the time frame. If it's something that you posted last week and you're calling about it today, everybody already saw it last week. But I love that you guys are keeping up to date with posting information on your social media pages?
I don't find I get a whole lot of material that is outdated, especially when it's on social media. A lot of press releases sometimes are outdated. It's amazing. I remember the days when my mailbox would be full. I mean, my mailbox with letters and stuff, and now there's nothing in there anymore. It's like I'll get one letter a week or something. But the thing about those releases is that they are generally, as far as I can tell, they're up to date, and there's not a whole lot of culling I have to do in terms of weeding out the old stuff. One thing I did, I guess I did want to. I would like to just mention as a point when it comes to issuing releases, whether it's whatever company or business or government agency you work for, I guess it would be a request that if you, again, maybe it's selfish on my part, but be sensitive to radio. So often we get releases, especially from people in law enforcement, but other entities as well. We'll get releases from people, and again, we'll call them up, try to get a hold of them, or in some cases we'll send out a reporter, and they refuse to comment beyond what's on the press release. And we have to convince them that we are an audio medium. Even if they were just read what's on the press release, that would help us out. I don't know why they issue a written press release. And speaking of pet peeves, another one, if you guys want to leave it out, is great visuals. I don't care about those.
No, as to one part of your question, that is a fairly regular occurrence, that we'll have some information, or even some information will be publicly out there, and the police will ask us to hold off using it, until they notify the next kin of death. A lot of time we know the names of victims before next kin is ever notified, and that's just sacrosanct. We don't put that out there until we know the next of kin has been notified. We will have pictures of say, a murder suspect, and the police don't want us to put it out there until they can show a mug lineup to witnesses. We'll hold off on that until the police give us an okay. Not that these are open-ended things. We're telling you, get this done in a hurry, okay? We'll do you a favor, but we've got to get this information out there. But it's a fairly regular circumstance to cooperate that way with the police.
Yeah, I generally don't have problems with embargoes either. To me, it's just it's a matter of respecting your source, and the only problem that it's been, and it's been very rare, is when there is an embargo and when it's broken, that we be notified that the embargo has been broken, because sometimes it may not just be locally. It may be an embargo on a national story, or maybe an embargo on a story that's out of Columbus, and we don't know right away that the embargo has been broken. So if it could be a two-way street, that would be a help.
As PIOs, we are, I would say, fairly well schooled in the incident command process. Wanted to know if you, as the media, also receive that training so that you know when an incident happens, that you know which person in each agency to go to. Does that happen with the media?
I'll kick that off, I guess. Is it that no, there are no real training. I think it's a process of learn by doing, and it's different for each market you work in. The process is different. The contacts are different. So I think it's just really something you learn by doing. Who to contact, who will talk to you, who won't, when the best time to call them is, and don't call at 3 a.m. because this guy gets PO'd. He gets ticked off pretty bad. And but again, I mean, you do, I guess you do what you have to do, but it's on a case-by-case basis, and every time you deal with it, it becomes a learning experience too. For the years I've been doing this, it's amazing the contacts you make, the things you learn doing them with those contacts, and especially now with the social media, that's been kind of a pain and kind of a real fun experience for me, getting to know that, getting familiar with it, getting to learn familiar with how to use it as a tool. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Hello. Okay. I think it was, it was Jose or maybe John this morning talked about the story with the rat, and he saw a rat across the street, and somebody took a picture of it, and then it eventually became a story later in the day, and that was kind of a buzzword or something that the media would grab onto. As someone from a higher education institution, I found that most of the stories we're trying to pitch are good stories. They're not crisis or crisis related or anything like that. It's usually we're trying to share good news about the university, and that's a little bit harder for us to get media attention from. What are some maybe mentions or buzzwords that would make you pay attention and want to cover?
Well,
as far as
on a feature or general news story
Right.
or, quote, good news, I think you're better off working your local reporters than tweeting about it. Try to establish a relationship with your local reporters, get to know their editors, try to learn what kind of stories they like and their information needs. I think PIOs, and I'll say the same many reporters too, need to make better efforts at getting to know the people that are going to cover you and your organization. And I know that may eventually happen over a period of years, but make a concerted effort to do that. Have coffee every once in a while, kick things around, talk off the record, try to get to know your local people, and I think you'll get a better reception for the ideas you want to pitch for potential stories.
There's maybe two people that I can think of off the top of my head that I have, or I think a really good relationship with when it comes to the public information officers, and our rapport, I think, is so good. It's almost to the point that I consider it unusual, where she knows she's in tune enough with what I do that she knows what stories not to pitch to me and what stories to pitch. And as a result, 9 times out of 10, when she does make a pitch to me, I'll bite and I'll do something on the story. But there's going to be a lot of times that stories will be turned down, and stories for some reason which may be good today won't be good tomorrow because of breaking news. But I think it's good to keep those kind of story ideas coming, because whether it's radio, newspaper, or television, we all have those slow days, and if we can pick up the evergreen stories and it's something that's not dated, if we can do an interview and hang on to it for a slow day, I think that's a good thing to do too.
I love good news stories, but it's so hard to push them through in some of the news meetings. And sometimes what they're looking for is either a personal story that where you can tell the story through an individual who has a unique story that other people would want to hear and want to know about. And so it's kind of finding that uniqueness in the story and making that aware to us, or when we call and ask, okay, well, what else is going on with this awards ceremony? Is there something special going on with somebody, like, I don't know, if it was like a graduation, let's say, for an academy or something like that. Find that unique story where it's like this person is graduating from the academy and, their dad graduated, their something like that, to make it unique and make it kind of personal. That way it will be a little bit easier trying to get coverage for that story, something different than what we did the year before or the year before that.
So this may overlap what she said. For our grant, we have to do at least 3 press conferences a year. So it's part of your seatbelt campaign or whatever. So they want in that grant 3 press conferences. I don't always like doing press conferences because I'm also competing in a smaller market with maybe 4 other agencies who have to do the same press conference. So do you have any advice for those of us who feel like kind of we're stuck doing maybe the same thing to make it more appealing for those in the media to come out and cover it? It's just kind of something I feel like I do all the time that's boring, and I don't want to waste the people's time for those who are coming to support it. I don't want to waste media's time, but it's still something I'm mandated to do.
Well, I mean,
Free food.
Well, yeah, try to find a way to make it unique. Try to find a way to make it yours. Find a family whose car you would not believe was smashed beyond recognition, yet survived with relatively minor injuries. Let them talk about how seatbelts saved their life, about how their children were safe because they were properly restrained in a child's seat. Again, you're looking for the individual story that other people can identify with, rather than just the police chief says, put your seatbelt on, and here's our fatal stats this year. I mean, personalize it. Make it something people can identify with.
I can sympathize with you, though, with having to do it as a requirement, and you know, depending on what the subject of the press conference is, you may end up with having nobody show up. You know, so yeah, I feel for you there. One thing, if I could, I wanted to make a pitch here, and I didn't want to leave today without kind of making a pitch, and maybe it's an idea that some of you are already familiar with, and maybe others are not. But again, it's under the category of making do with less. And what we have done, again, because of the size of our staff has been whittled down so much, we're not able to get out, talk to the newsmakers like we used to and like we would like to. Something that we found has worked for us, though, is the iPhone and the smartphone. And what we have done is have a lot of our people will get them on the phone, and if they have an iPhone on the other end, we'll have them open up the voice memo app on their iPhone, and while they're talking to us on the phone, they're recording what they're doing into the iPhone, and then they email the file to us. And it sounds like studio quality, pretty close to studio quality as opposed to phone quality, which kind of was the standard in radio if you didn't get out into the field. And that's really worked good. It's a little iffier when it comes to Android phones because there's not like a standard app. But we've tried with a couple on there. We've had some kind of limited success on that. But I'll throw that out there to everybody if you know, especially if you're talking with radio people and they're on the other end of the phone. If maybe offer to do it on the iPhone. It's really, I think it's really been an idea that's helped us out a lot.
And can I preach on something for just a quick second? A lot of you deal with a lot of reporters, and you probably deal with a lot of public records requests. And I realize a lot of the ultimate calls are made over your heads with department heads and lawyers. But to the extent you can help reporters and therefore the public by helping to facilitate public records requests, you will have reporters indebted to you forever. Ohio law is that public records law is to be liberally construed in favor of disclosure, but it's increasingly, it's coming back the other way. They're looking for reasons to deny records rather than give them to you. A big bane anymore is overly broad. If I cannot identify with enough specificity what record I am seeking, it's considered overly broad and I don't get it. It's gotten to the point almost where I got to know Sally Doe wrote John Jones on August 8th about this topic and know the names of their dogs to get a public record. I mean, I'm not over-exaggerating this. It has become very bad. And that runs contrary, I think, to the missions of government and their accountability and who they work for. We're constantly having to educate police agencies on their responsibilities as far as producing records, particularly on the most fundamental record of them all, police incident report. An incident report and its attachments, narratives, is a public record, period. Has to be released. Nothing can be redacted. Again, nothing can be redacted. Not the name of a juvenile, not the name of the uncharged suspect, not the name of a victim. The only thing that can be redacted from incident report is the identity of a child involved in a child abuse complaint. So I would ask you officers and you who work with police agencies to please keep that in mind. Please do what you can to try to get us records. We're willing to work with you. We're not trying to be unreasonable, but help us out. We need it.
Kind of a subjective question, but as somebody coming out of college now, I was just kind of wondering, what would you say is the most effective way to kind of open up that professional relationship with you? Build that first part of the relationship, business relationship with you as a journalist.
No doubt, social media. If you want to jump on and follow me on Twitter, I'll probably follow you. Maybe an email of introduction, and let me know what you do, what you're looking to do, what your mission is, and we take it from there. I think obviously the bottom line when it comes to contact is staying in touch and being accessible when needed.
And get to know each other. I mean, develop a relationship to get to a point where you can talk to each other off the record both ways, and it's honored. Hey, I'm going to have a good story for you tomorrow, but I can't give it to you yet. We honor off-the-record confidences all the time. Journalists do. And if we didn't honor them, we wouldn't be in this business for long. So don't be afraid to give us a heads up that you're going to have something coming down, or that you can provide this particular piece of information at a later date and time, and then follow up. And please, and I still get this, don't ask us what our deadlines are. What do you need this by? When's your deadline? Hey, we're all 24/7 anymore, so that's not a consideration. So please keep that in mind.
Great point, great point.
I think some of the best relationships with PIOs are built when they're timely, when they respond in a good amount of time, as quickly as possible to requests or to our calls. When you get back with us, that shows that you kind of have a respect for what we're doing, and we can build a mutual foundation on that and continue to talk and continue to work with one another.
Right. You may need some time to work on something we've asked you about, but at least, if we email you, at least acknowledge our request. We're working on it. You wouldn't believe the number of people you'll email a question to or a request for a document, and they don't even acknowledge it. You don't know if they got it or yet. At least let us know, hey, got it, I'm working on it, I'll get back to you.
Okay, we have one final question here.
Hi. We have one of the most amazing media days coming up, and we would love to invite all of you there. We do some great stuff, and I'm sure we're going to give you all a heads up about that, right? Santa's Workshop. Yeah. So you'll be getting information on that, and I'm just here to tell you, when you get it, you really need to come because there will be free food.
Well, let me know at Randy Ludlow. If I can't do it myself, I'll get it to the right people.
I'm going to close now. Thank the media panel for coming. The media panel is always one of the most popular things. When the problem is we put them at the end of the day when a lot of people have already left. I understand why people leave because they got a long way to go. I hope you all enjoyed the session today. I think this was the largest one that we've had so far, and it shows that a lot of people are interested and will most likely continue to do this. The session is being taped by Jeff Watt back there, and I want to thank him. And we'll have this up on our website on Monday, hopefully. So you can all, if there's something that you want to watch again, you're welcome to do that. I also want to thank our staff at the Communications Department and Public Safety. Kristen Castle, Lindsay Boer, Jessica Pearson, Tamara McBride, Dustin Fox, China Dodley, Kelly Blackwell, Nikki Lanka, Julie Hines, Sergeant Shirey, and Lieutenant Sabetan. Hope you all enjoyed yourself. Drive carefully and be careful out there.